This is me. You're very welcome to follow me on Twitter if you want to hear my ramblings or if you want to know if the pizza has arrived. Earlier it did arrive. Yeah, I'm Thor or Lei Sen, my self-given Chinese name, Thunder God. It was, I thought it looked pretty cool. I do developer relations and developer experience at Supabase. Actually, I'd love to get a show of hands, like who has heard of Supabase? Okay, so who has used Supabase? Keep your hand up. Okay, that's very cool. Is it working roughly well in Taiwan or slow on the free plan? Self-hosted. What do you host it on? In your room.
And a VPS that we have as well.
Yeah, that might be fast then. It's like no latency whatsoever. Okay, that's cool. I'll send you an invoice in a bit. But so I'm mostly based out of Singapore. I do love any good excuse to come to Taiwan. Really love it here. Who knows? Maybe would move here eventually. But I am a gold card holder as well, and thank you to the Digi Gold Card community who is actually supporting this event. So the pizza sponsorship is from them, which I think in the end means it's from the Taiwanese taxpayer. So thank you all. If you're paying your taxes in Taiwan, thank you. I also do this little passion project of mine, which I call HackerHouse Taiwan. We did one earlier this year, just before Lunar New Year. We brought a bunch of remote software engineers together, actually exactly in this space, just because, I have one friend who's at Piccolage and they've just been so kind to host us here. So again, also, thanks Piccolage for hosting us today. Really, really sweet. And yeah, I'm hoping to do more HackerHouse Taiwan edition. So if you're interested in something like that, follow it on Twitter. You can also, if you go to the blog post, there's a form, interest form where you can put in your interest. Cool. Also I'm one of the 2 GitHub stars that we have in Singapore. I have no idea why they chose me because I'm German and I just happen to live in Singapore and somehow they gave me the star, but I actually think there's better people, so I should really put them up. I used to do things at Stripe. Before I went to Supabase. So Supabase, I guess, since you all kind of know what it is, don't really need to go through too much. Really kind of built on top of Postgres, everything open source, interconnected, kind of the authentication lives within your database, Edge Functions as well. The JWT is sort of integrated into your file storage. You have a real-time server. And then most recently, you have something called Vector. So really what it is again, it's an open source Postgres extension. And this is really what makes Postgres so powerful, is that you have this extension ecosystem. Someone built this PG Vector extension, which actually brings Vector capabilities into Postgres. Actually, do folks kind of know Vector embeddings, like how that stuff works? Sort of, I mean, if you don't, there is actually Supabase Vector embeddings. There's a good blog post by, is it this? No, this is not the blog post. Where was the generate embeddings? Somewhere there's a blog post about it. Is that the blog post? Maybe I need to, because there's a good visual that I wanted to show. Vector search, no. Wow, and Taiwan is giving me everything but the result I want. Anyway, so really what vectors are just a way to translate sort of human context like speech or images into kind of machine context. So vector really is just an array of numbers depending on how many dimensions you have. There's more numbers, and basically what that then means is that you can perform similarity search of finding context that is similar to other contexts. So for example, if you're searching, doing like image search, so you create a vector for your image, and then if you search for something that is similar to the context that's in the image, the vectors are in proximity to each other. So that's kind of how the vector stuff works. Now, what I actually wanted to show you is, now I put AI in the browser, I think in my talk title. Now, I haven't actually been able to play around with it ahead of this talk. So Transformers.js is a really interesting project that like the folks at Hugging Face are working on to actually run sort of web GPU things in the browser. That's pretty cool. But what we're doing at Supabase is to actually run inference as well as later on kind of large language models within your Supabase Edge Functions. Now, Edge Functions are kind of, these guys here, just small JavaScript kind of isolates that are, quickly spun up all around the world, closest to your users, which means, there isn't really a great way to sort of do AI within them. But we've actually sort of preloaded a model here. So in this case, it's a GT small model. It's a model that works on, I think, 380 dimensions. So fewer dimensions, but still apparently fairly good accuracy. And so what you can do with this then is that you can generate an embedding, for sort of all your okay, this is it already spun up? No, it's not. Okay, I shouldn't be doing live demos when I came from a red-eye flight. Maybe we stop this. Is this the project?
Interesting. So it really means that you can you store it into the embeddings vector right away in Supabase.
Yeah. So what's pretty cool with the Edge functions is that you can you can use kind of database webhook triggers to actually like trigger the Edge function based on an event in the database. So say there's a new row inserted or updated or deleted in your database, you can then trigger an Edge function to run kind of whenever that happens. Yeah. Okay. So now we're starting this up. So with Supabase, we have, that's kind of a nice byproduct of everything being open source. You can actually run it locally using the CLI, which is pretty nice. And so this function is a database webhook. So we have a table. So if we look at our migrations, we have a table called embeddings. And basically anytime we insert kind of a new row into that table, we then run our generate embedding method, which then uses kind of a preloaded. So we basically have the GTE small model sort of preloaded, so you don't need to pull it down. Previously, you were kind of pulling it down from Hugging Face, which had kind of a lot of overhead. So now we have that kind of preloaded into your Edge runtime, and then this means you can just generate that embedding, and then we basically just write that embedding back into the database. So if we open up our Supabase Studio, for example, we can look at this. Here's our embeddings table. And so basically we have, kind of our content in here. And then we have our embedding, which is the vector representation of kind of the context within that content. And now when we insert, new content, say type hey, then it will go off, fire off. Now I'm running it locally and I haven't set it up properly. So it's actually not running locally at the moment. Yeah, but, in theory, it would then go and write the embedding in there. Anyway, so then we have another method. And so this is kind of how we perform sort of this proximity search. So we have, embedding vectors for all our content. So for example, in our case, we actually generate embeddings for all our documentation. And then you can put, so in the Supabase docs, you have this here where you can say ask Supabase AI, and you can say, okay, how do I connect to my database? And so now we're generating an embedding for this phrase, how do I connect to my database? And we perform a proximity search through all our documentation content. And then we use that context and give that to OpenAI to then construct a markdown answer that we then kind of put in here, custom. So that's sort of the idea. That's the same what we're doing here. So we're getting our search term from our request, and then we're creating embedding for it. Where will we create the embedding? Search. So yeah, model run. Okay, what is model? Yeah, so here we go. Model run, that's how we generate our embedding for our search term. And then we have our embedding. And what we have here is a remote procedure call to a Postgres function that's called query embeddings. And this is our function here. So this is sort of how PG vector, so we're using our embedding vector, 384 dimensions in this case. And it's basically using this here normalized length. So we're using, it's called cosine similarity to basically get, the context that is most similar to our search term. So this is really where the magic kind of with PG vector comes in. And so now what we can do is we can run maybe our function. So we got Supabase start already there. We'll do Supabase function serve our function. So again, the Edge function runtime is open source. It's built on top of the Dino runtime, which is also open source. So we can run it locally as well. And then we can do a curl request here. And, so the context basically now we're searching for, vehicles in our database. And basically we're getting back, okay, in our database, we have a car, we have a boat, and we have a train, right? Now, the cool thing is, right, so if we actually have things, where are we here? So for example, if we have, we're searching for things that are edible. Is that how I spell edible? So it'll give us banana, tomato, apple. That's good. Now, Apple is not just Apple, it's also, an electronics brand. So if we do the same and we search for electronics, we also get the Apple and the car. The car has electronics, right? And the desk. So this is where this becomes quite powerful, where actually the entire, not the entire human knowledge, but like human context is sort of encoded in those embeddings. And sort of this, we kind of call it semantic search, becomes actually quite easy to implement. And yeah, I think I'll stop here because I didn't have enough sleep. But yeah, there's plenty of videos as well about kind of different AI things, and we're also I have an example where I'm using Ollama running locally, so large language models running locally, and then calling that from our Edge functions. And that's quite exciting because that sort of is a perfect transition into Daniel's talk. And so without further ado, we'll do that. So thanks so much. Cheers. But yeah, if there's any questions. Yeah.
For the edge functions, can they be run? It's Supabase open source, right?
Yes.
Can they be run in Lambda or like cloud functions?
No, so the runtime it's a Dino runtime, but you can host the runtime yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you want to use Lambda, like you can cobble that together as well. But yeah, so generally what you would do if you're self-hosting is you would just host the runtime yourself. Yeah.
Thanks.
Cool.